So let's start with our feet crossed, sitting up nice and tall. Awesome. If the knees start hurting, just scooch the feet away from you a little bit. Okay. And so we connect in with the sit bones and we find the sit bones on the floor. You might need to move the glutes out of the way. A heart nice and tall. Think about the belly button coming in up towards your heart, and the heart lifts up and the back of the head lifts up, but the shoulders stay nice and soft. And if you would like, you can softly close the eyes, have the hands on the knees or in the lap, and we're going to take a couple of moments just to settle down and to connect in with the breath. So with the eyes softly closed, just find the breath, feel it coming in and out at the nostrils. You might notice that the inhale is slightly cooler than the exhale. Checking in that the spine is nice and tall, the shoulders are relaxed, the jaw is relaxed, the face is relaxed, but the crown of the head's kind of lifting up as if a string is pulling up. And then with the next 3 inhales and exhales, let's think about the day, and with each exhale, let the day wash away all the cares, all the concerns, all the worries. And then with your next exhale, let your chin drop towards your chest. Keeping the heart lifted, let the chin release down. We're focusing on lengthening the back of the neck. So the head is going to be heavy, the shoulders are soft, but the heart is lifted. We're staying here a moment to give the neck time to relax. Think for a moment all the time that you have spent keeping your head up. So we can be gracious just for a moment and let the neck relax. And then gently guide your chin towards your right collarbone, keeping the left shoulder stationary on the back, moving the stretch to the side of the neck. With each exhale, envision that the muscles become longer, even if they don't. And then bring your head back to center, pause for a moment, and then gently guide your chin towards your left collarbone, keeping your right shoulder stationary on the back. And bringing the head back to center, you can softly open the eyes and find your hands in your lap, interlace your fingers, and then pushing the palms away, round the back, a nice stretch in the back. Ask your fingers if they're tight, if you've been typing all day or texting. Okay, and now we're going to inhale the hands up to the ceiling. So this is the first time we're asking some work of the back and the shoulders. If your shoulders at the top hurt, go ahead and bend your elbows. What we're going to do is we're going to lift the hands up toward the ceiling and try to draw the shoulder blades down the back. Yeah, there you go. Okay, a little bit of work. And then we're going to stretch to the right side, keeping the hands lifted. Nice stretch to the side. A little bit of core work snuck in there to keep you up, and then inhaling up and over to the left. And inhaling up, and let's bring the hands down. And go ahead and change the cross of your feet, which will feel funny. Okay. So we're going to twist. I'm going to twist with intention this first time. So when we twist, we want to twist with our ab muscles. So the first thing we're going to focus on is our heart. And as we inhale up, the heart lifts up and we're extending the spine. And then as we exhale, we'll twist to the right, using your ab muscles, not so much your hands. Imagine that the crown of your head is above your heart, which is above your tailbone. Even as you're twisting, you're not leaning back too far, you're not rounding your back. And as this is a warm-up, think about how your back feels right now. Do you need to be cautious the rest of the class in your twisting? Do you have a rib that's tight, a muscle that's tight? Inhaling to center. And then, so inhale, heart tall, and then as you exhale, twist to the left. With each inhale, we want to envision that we're lifting the spine up. Exhaling, we're using our ab muscles to twist, but we're also relaxing the back muscles. Again, asking the back how it feels on this side. And inhaling to center. We're going to stretch to the side now, so you take your right hand and out to the side. And then with your left hand, come up. Nice strong left hand. The fingers are always reaching. And then continue reaching to the side. Okay, then inhale all the way up. And we'll switch sides, so the left hand down to the floor, inhale the right hand up, and then stretch over to the other side. And inhale up. We're going to warm up our shoulders now, so we find our hands open. Good. And every time we have our hands out, they're working, not flappy hands. Working hands. And we're going to focus on our scapula, shoulder blades, so they come back, right, with an inhale. And then as we exhale, we come forward and round our back. So inhaling, open. And exhale, round forward. Inhaling, open. And exhale, round forward. One more time, inhale, open. And then as we exhale, we're going to move to eagle arms. So the right arm crosses under the left. And then you continue to wrap the hands. There you go. So the thumbs end up coming towards your face. Hands are strong. Fingers are pointing towards the ceiling. And then inhaling, open. Exhale, round your back. Inhale, open. Exhale, round your back. One more time, inhale, open, and then eagle arms, the left under the right, or the opposite of what you did last time. Remember that the hands are strong, fingers are pointing up towards the ceiling, and the thumbs are coming back towards your face. And go ahead and inhale, open. Good. Now we're going to come to table, so hands and knees. Ensuring that the wrists are underneath the shoulders and the knees are underneath the hips. And we're just going to take a nice little rocking motion with the hips, and we're going to roll the hips around. Keeping the hands on the mat, let your shoulders move around. It should feel really good on your back. Again, this is a nice time to ask your hips how they feel, if one side hurts more than the other. Moving your back around. And then pause and go the opposite way. And then pause in center, and we'll change to cat-cow. So with an inhale, we draw the belly down, the gaze comes up. As we exhale, we round our back like a cat, pushing our spine up. So inhaling cow, and exhale cat. Inhale cow, and exhale cat. And let's change this next one. See if you can find yourself in constant motion. Inhaling cow. So you might have to slow the motion down and exhale cat. So at the point where the inhale changes to the exhale, or vice versa, you change the movement and you're constantly in motion. So following your own breath, the inhale cow and exhale cat. This is a tiny little flow sequence where we're mapping up our breath with our movement. And then finishing that and pausing at center. We're going to bring our right foot out to the side. Paying attention to the alignment points that the left hip is above the left knee. We're not open too far. And that the right foot is flat on the floor, be it parallel to your mat or not, just depending on what your ankle likes. And now we're going to rock back and forth. Should feel mighty nice on the hip. And then pausing that. Find your core muscles, and we're going to bring the torso all the way up. And find the left hip and push the left hip forward. There you go. Should be a nice stretch right there. And then the left hand comes up to the ceiling, and then we're going to stretch all the way to the side. So while we're stretching to the side, let's make sure that the left armpit isn't rolling forward, the left chest isn't rolling forward. Just stretching straight to the side. And then go ahead and inhale up, and then bring to hands and knees to table, and switching to the opposite side. So the left foot comes out to the side. Right hip over the right knee. Left foot flat on the floor, parallel to your mat or out at 45. And then rocking the hips back and forth. And then pausing in center, find the core muscles and bring the torso up, pushing the right hip forward. And then when you're ready, inhaling the right hand up and continuing to stretch over to the left. And then coming up, let's return back to table. We're going to do one more motion in this warm-up. We're going to do this little sequence, and it's going to be moving from child's pose to table to downward facing dog. So, focusing our efforts on child's pose where we push our seat back to our feet. Reaching the hands forward, and the forehead comes down on the floor or the mat. This is child's pose. So with an inhale, we would come up to table, and then the exhale, roll the toes, push the hips up for downward facing dog. Calves might be tight, so we're going to ignore that for a second. Inhaling to table, exhaling to child's pose. Inhale to table. Exhale, downward facing dog. Inhale, table. Exhale, child's pose. Inhale, table. Exhale, downward facing dog. Inhale, table. Exhale, child's pose. Now we're going to focus on this breath control. We're going to slow down the movement to let the pace of your own breath guide your movement. So don't rush the breath, slow down the movement. We're going to put the breath and the body together now. So try to do this motion, this sequence, to where you're constantly in motion and it feels very fluid. So inhaling to table. As you change to your exhale, start traveling through to downward facing dog. As you're stopped in downward facing dog, inhaling to table, and then exhale to child's pose. So inhale, table, change to downward facing dog with the exhale. Inhale to table, and exhale, child's pose. We're going to do that 2 more times with your own breath. Inhale, and exhale. Inhale, exhale. 1 more time. And as you come to child's pose, pause, rest. Let yourself settle down to the mat.
For the hamstrings. Let's have some fun. So standing at the top of the mat, let's inhale up and exhaling halfway down, bringing the heart forward, flat back. We're connecting in with our hamstrings, asking them how tight they are. And then inhaling all the way up. Exhale, hands to the heart. Inhaling up. Exhale, halfway, flat back. Inhaling all the way up. Exhaling, hands to the heart. 1 more time. Inhaling up. Exhale down. Halfway, back flat. That means that the heart is pulling forward. You kind of feel like you're sticking your sit bones out. Inhaling all the way up. Hands down to the heart. Inhaling all the way up. And exhaling down. Inhaling halfway up. And exhaling down. We're pausing here for a moment. We're working to see how tight the hamstrings are, how much ability you have to pull your ribs towards your thighs. Back is fairly flat, so you might be up here still, or using your block. Inhaling all the way up, hands down to the heart. Inhale up, exhale down, inhale halfway up, exhale downward facing dog. So this first downward facing dog, go ahead and plant your hands really strong and then pedal the feet back and forth. Attempting to lift the sit bones up, the knees can be bent, touching in with the hands and the calves. Inhaling forward to plank, nice strong plank. Exhale, knees, chest, chin, keep the elbows in. Inhale up for small cobra, the gaze stays down. Back to downward facing dog. And stepping all the way forward. Inhaling all the way up. Hands down to the heart. Inhale up. Exhale down. Halfway up. Downward facing dog. Inhale forward to plank. Exhale, knees, chest, chin. Inhale up, cobra. Exhale, downward facing dog. And stepping all the way forward. Inhaling all the way up. Hands down to the heart. 1 more time. Inhaling up. Exhaling down. Halfway up. Downward facing dog. Forward for plank. Lower knees, chest, chin. Inhale up for cobra. Downward facing dog. Stepping all the way forward. Inhaling all the way up. And hands down to the heart. Inhaling up. Exhale down. Inhale halfway up. This time we're going to step our right foot back. We're going to drop the back knee. We're going to pause here for a moment. So the front foot flexed, knee is at 90 degrees. You could be here on 2 blocks. We're letting the hamstrings, inner thighs, hip flexor relax just a moment. Then planting the hands, exhaling to downward facing dog. Forward for plank. Lowering down, knees, chest, chin. Inhale up, cobra. Downward facing dog. And finding your right foot, bring your right foot all the way forward. Help it out if it needs it. Drop the back knee. Here we are, foot is flexed. Knee at 90 degrees, nice and strong. Letting the hip flexor right here relax. And then planting the hands back to downward facing dog. Stepping all the way forward, reaching all the way up, hands down to the heart, inhaling up, exhale all the way down, inhale halfway up, exhale right foot travels back, drop that knee, inhale up for a modified crescent, hands are strong, front foot is flexed, knee is strong. Plant the hands, downward facing dog. Inhaling forward to plank, knees, chest, chin, keep the elbows in. Inhale up for cobra, the gaze stays down. Back to downward facing dog. Finding the right foot, bring the right foot all the way forward. Drop the back knee. Inhale to modified crescent. This should be a wonderful hip flexor stretch right here. Hands are strong, lifting up in the air. Front foot is flexed, toes lifted, knee is strong. Bring the hands back down. Press to downward facing dog. And stepping both feet forward to the top of your mat. Inhaling all the way up. Hands down to the heart. One more time. Inhaling up. Exhale down. Halfway up. Right foot back, drop the back knee. Inhale up to modified crescent. One more breath. Then plant the hands. Press to downward facing dog. Forward for plank. Lower down. Inhale up to cobra. We're stopping here at cobra because this is excellent back work. Neck work. Pulling the elbows back and in. Good stuff for the rotators. Press to downward facing dog. Find your right foot all the way forward. Drop the back knee. Inhale up to modified crescent. One more breath. Then plant the hands. Press to downward facing dog. Stepping both feet forward, all the way up. Exhaling, hands to the heart. Inhale up, exhale down, halfway up. Right foot travels back, drop the back knee. We're here to this modified crescent again. If your knee ever hurts, put a towel underneath it or roll your toes. A folded up towel can help a lot. So we're going to get into the hamstring of this front leg real quick. We've warmed up a little bit. So we're going to rock our hips back and forth, like so. So the toes can lift up, back and forth. I want you to pay attention to how you're doing this. Notice that your foot will probably look like this, so try to keep the four corners mostly forward, so we're rocking back and forth. And notice that the hips are on tracks, they're not side to side. So you might need to do this on blocks. You have your hands here, if your hamstrings are really tight. So back and forth. Exhaling as you go back, inhaling forward, exhaling as you go back, forward, and then we're going to go back and stay. Attempting to keep the hips equally forward, not one side to the next. And then you'll notice if you press your big toe pad down more, the stretch will move more to the inner hamstring. So we want to aim at always keeping the four corners pushing equally and not letting your foot do this, which most you probably want to. Okay? Coming forward, plant the hands, exhaling to downward facing dog. Inhaling forward to plank, lower knees, chest, chin. Inhale up for cobra, back to downward facing dog. Find your right foot all the way forward, drop the back knee. We'll find this motion on the opposite side. So if you need to be on blocks, 2 blocks, and exhaling back, inhaling forward, and back, forward, one more time forward, exhaling back. We're going to pause, checking in with our foot alignment, our hip alignment. And inhaling forward, plant the hands, push yourself to downward facing dog. And stepping all the way forward, reaching all the way up, hands down to the heart. Now that we're warmed up a little bit, we're going to run through some poses that are really good for the hamstrings. First pose is pyramid pose. So the left foot's forward, right foot steps back. It's about a leg's length, it's a little bit shorter. My toes are mostly forward, not like this, more like that, hip distance apart. Okay? So let's keep the hands on the hips. We're going to focus mostly on the bottom portion, the legs. So the front foot, the toes are lifting up, the back foot, the toes are lifting up, and I'm bringing my heart forward. Notice that the hips are forward. Your hips are going to want to do this. Resist the urge. You've got to pull them down and bring the heart forward. So if you're here, this is fine. This is not, we're not stretching the back, we're stretching the front hamstring, probably the back calf, and some of the front hip. So you could be here, kind of a supported pyramid pose. If you had space to come down, so here, notice that my hip's not opening up, I'm keeping it down. The last part of this pose, you can put your hands forward and reaching forward. So planting the back foot, getting your abs engaged to come up, and then let's step forward, shake in the middle a little bit. Right foot forward, left foot steps back. A little bit longer than the leg's length. Toes are lifted and working. Hip distance apart. The back foot's not like this, it's more forward. Hips are forward, so a lot of you will be like this. So you gotta pull this around. If you can't, go ahead and shorten the stance and practice like that. Keeping the hips forward and bringing the heart forward. This is a lot of inner thigh and pelvic work to keep the hips in alignment. So we come down. We might stay here for a second, asking the hamstrings how they feel. You could be here. Not putting a lot of weight here, just kind of using that to bring your heart forward. If you have flexibility to come down. Keeping the front toes lifted, the back toes lifted. If you wanted more of a challenge, bring the hands forward and reach towards where your second toe is pointing. And finding the abs, inhaling all the way up and stepping forward. So moving on, you can get into the hamstrings a little bit more. We're going to practice triangle pose. So the left foot steps forward, right foot steps back, heel arch or in alignment. Remember that this front knee, nice and strong, mildly bent, reaching forward, opening the heart. So you can find your block. Use your hand here and opening the heart up for triangle pose. Continuing to breathe. Find the top shoulder blade. Bring it in towards your spine, opening up the heart. All the toes should be lifted. Still breathing. Pulling the heart strongly towards the wall in front of you. So pressing the back foot down, inhaling up, step up, and we'll switch feet. Right foot forward, left foot steps back, heel arch in alignment, front knee slightly bent, tilting the pelvis. Hand can be lightly supported on the leg or on a block. Reaching the floor if you can, and then inhaling the hand up. Bringing the shoulder blades into the spine, rolling the torso open. Head is supported, you're breathing. Toes are lifted. One more breath. And then exhale, bring the hand down. Inhaling, step to the top of your space. So let's inhale all the way up. Exhaling down. Inhaling halfway up. Exhale down. So your hamstrings should be a little looser now. Let's come to a flat back. And then find your ribs and try to pull your ribs using your abs closer to your thighs. Your knees might need to bend a little bit. But this is how we get more of a hamstring stretch than being like this. So if you're up here, down, see how I'm pulling, trying to lessen this angle right here, pulling my ribs down, not rounding my back. Okay, hamstrings. So you can be here or here. And inhaling up, we're going to change the position of the feet. Have the feet wide and have them turned in a little bit. And we're going to try that again. You're going to feel a little bit of different stretch. So nice and easy, bringing the heart forward, toes lifted, bringing the ribs towards the legs, and reaching down. And inhaling all the way up. Excellent job. So we're going to move on to some other yoga poses for hamstrings. So inhaling up, exhaling down, inhaling halfway up. Exhale, we're going to step back to warrior two. So the left foot's forward, the right foot steps back really long. And as your front knee bends nice and strong, inhaling the hands up for warrior two. And then as we inhale, straighten the front leg, we're going to move to triangle. And then with the next breath, inhale back to warrior two. And then moving to downward facing dog. So with this downward facing dog, go ahead and inhale the right foot up nice and strong. Minimize the amount of twisting in the torso. Foot strong up in the air. Allowing the left heel to sink down, getting into the hamstring and the calf. Then bring the leg down. Inhaling the left leg up. Keeping the shoulders square to the mat, foot strong, lifted up in the air, allowing the right heel to sink down. And bringing it down. Inhaling forward to plank. Lower knees, chest, chin. Inhale up for cobra. Back to downward facing dog. Finding the right foot, you're going to bring the right foot all the way forward. Rotate and plant that back, and we're coming up to warrior two on the opposite side. So check your alignment, heel arch in alignment. Front knee is bending, coming forward nice and strong. Inhaling the hands up. And then inhaling, straighten the front leg. Exhale, reach forward, moving to triangle. And inhaling the hands back to warrior two. Another breath. And then stepping all the way forward. We're going to inhale all the way up. Hands down to the heart. Good job. So stepping to the middle of the mat, we're going to move into the IT band outside hamstrings for a little bit. So what we're going to do is, when we bend forward, we're going to start here. And what we do is we bend this right knee. And the idea is that we twist. It's my hands on my left hip, and I'm twisting. I'm allowing my hip to drop down, and you're going to feel a stretch all along here. You keep your toes lifted on the left foot, you'll feel more stretch. So here we are. You can reach down to your block or the floor, twisting open. So if you were here and your shoulder wasn't pointing up towards the ceiling, you would want to stay here. Use your ab muscles to rotate the torso open. If your shoulder and your elbow are facing towards the ceiling, then go ahead and lift your hand up. We don't want to be here though. So we want to be here or here. Again, we're focusing on IT and hamstrings, so left toe is lifted, foot is active. You can push that leg down, allowing the right hip to drop. And release that, inhaling all the way up, hands down to the heart. So inhale up, exhaling down. We're moving to the opposite side. So the right knee bends, the right hip shifts down. Left, sorry. The right foot toes are working, the right leg is stretching, opening up the torso. If the elbow is pointing towards the ceiling, go ahead and open the hands up. Remembering to breathe. And bringing it down. Inhaling all the way up. And hands down to the heart. We're going to try a pose called standing splits. It's a good hamstring stretch. So we're going to practice warrior three first and then that. So warrior three, standing in the middle of the mat with your foot planted, left foot planted. And we're going to have our hands on our hips at first, and we're going to shift forward. You get into the hamstrings when you keep the right hip down. If you open up, a lot of the stretch is missed. This is called an escape valve in yoga when you get out of alignment. So really forcing yourself, and your hands can be down here. So this might be a hamstring stretch for a lot of you. And if you want to be on blocks, that's okay. So the foot in the air is really strong. So warrior three, and this might be where you stop. You can focus on the right hip coming down, keeping it level like you would have a pizza box on your back. The left foot toes lifted. And inhaling up. And moving to the opposite side. Plant the right foot. Hands on the hips. Coming forward. This knee is strong, keeping the left hip from coming up. Your hands can come down for a little bit of help. So your hip might be up here. Squeeze the inner thigh, stretch the IT, the hamstring, the hip muscles, allowing the left hip to come down. The foot up in the air, the leg is strong. And inhaling up. Okay. So we're going to try it again on the left side, moving from Warrior 3 into standing splits. We're going to add the balance into it. So planting the left foot, toes are lifted. I'm going to keep my hands on my hips and coming down. I'm going to check that my right hip is down. And then finding my hands on my ankle. So here's a nice Warrior 3. Moving forward, standing splits. You lift the leg up as much as you can. The foot up in the air is strong. The standing leg is slightly bent. Trying to bring my head down, my ribs towards my thigh. Standing splits on the left. And using your core, coming up. Shake, shake, shake. And moving to the other side. Plant the right foot, toes are lifted nice and strong, hands on the hips. Finding a Warrior 3. Keeping this left hip down, not up here, left hip down. You can bring your hands down, and then go ahead and lift that leg as high as you can, nice strong. Standing splits technically is with your hands on your ankle. And inhaling up. And shake, shake, shake. So go ahead, step to the top of the mat. Inhaling all the way up. Exhale halfway down. Inhale all the way up. And hands down to the heart. Inhale up. Exhale down. Halfway up, downward facing dog. From this downward facing dog, we're just going to drop our knees, cross our feet, move back into Dandasana, stick pose. So here we are. We're going to move to head to knee pose, Janushirshasana. So we're going to bring our right foot either towards our calf or up here. We're going to keep the hips forward. And if you have a strap, grab your strap, or you can just use your hands, nice handy dandy. So we're not going to round our back. Some of you that have really tight hamstrings might want to, or cranky backs, might want to be here. Notice how I'm supporting myself, pushing myself a little bit forward. We want to try to learn how to tilt the pelvis forward and not round the back. So pushing myself forward, you might be here. Notice that my feet are working. Four corners, nice and strong. If you had more flexibility, you could bring your hands forward. The goal here is to be okay with wherever you're at and experience hamstring stretch. So important is not to let your foot do this, because then you miss the inner hamstring. So four corners always. Okay? And then the next point is keeping it out of the back, so using your abs and how much ever your hamstrings can give you to bring your ribs towards your thigh, lessening this angle. So if you can come down here and reach, so we would be here. And then inhaling up, send both feet out, and then bring the left in. Square the hips, foot's working. And then using the abs to draw, to close this angle right here with your ribs. Tilting the pelvis forward. If you're here, and that's fine, and you have a nice hamstring stretch, that's good. So if you have more space, coming down, aiming towards bringing your heart towards your toes, and notice that the feet are working. And inhaling up. We're going to do one more stretch. This is a wide leg stretch. You do it sitting up. So for some of you, it might be here. Others, it might be a little bit wider. So what we're going to do is we're going to focus on keeping the toes lifted up, not like this. Toes lifted, feet active. If you need to support yourself and lift up here, that's fine. We want to try to roll the pelvis forward, not round the back. We want to really minimize the rounding of the back. So if you need to use your hands or even sit on a blanket, that'll help too. So the toes lifted up. If you have the ability to come forward, you're here. If you have been graced with a lot of flexibility and you can totally come all the way down, one key before you come down is to make sure that your sit bones, the glute area stays down. Don't let all of that fall apart. Folks that are flexible in that area can micro tear their hamstrings by just falling forward. I don't have that ability, but some do. They just need to remember to tuck down their sit bones, that area, before they go down. So for the rest of us, we can sit here. Idea is that you're tilting your pelvis forward and you end up here. And so coming up, help your legs. So how we're going to start, you can put this with a yoga video at the end. So we're going to start with our back flat. And we want to make sure that there's space underneath our back. Our lumbar spine is curved like this, so it needs to remain that way. And this is key on hamstring stretching. So we're going to use our strap. And the other leg can be slightly bent. It doesn't matter really what the leg's doing, just that it's active. So the leg like this is an awesome place to start. If your leg is trembling, you need to ease up on it a little bit. And making sure that the back is still off the mat. One of the places we go wrong in our hamstring stretching, and I hope that you're stretching your hamstrings at this time while you listen, is that once the hamstring has reached its full length and you continue to go further, all you're doing is tilting your pelvis and you're not stretching your hamstring anymore, and in fact, you're stressing out the attachment points. So the rule of this stretch is that the leg is not trembling, it's not crying, it's not screaming, and your back is off the mat. If you want to help the hamstring a little bit, find the belly of the muscle, connect in with it, and tell it it's okay to release. So we stay here a little bit longer because the hamstrings need some time to stretch. Okay? So we're stretching the hamstring. After a while, I'm holding this. We've been holding this for 2 minutes now. You can go a little bit further perhaps. Okay? What we're going to do is we're going to take our strap in our opposite hand, and see I have rotated and I'm bringing my heel closer towards my face, and I'm taking my heel across my body a little bit and then bringing my foot towards my face. And so I've gotten out to the IT band. So I'm keeping my hip down and my knee is slightly bent. It's not completely straight. So a nice stretch. This hip series is meant to hold these stretches for over a minute, so be patient, settle in. If your back starts hurting, half everything, but work towards the minute. Okay, and then back to center. If you have one of these straps, keep a hold of this D-ring. Okay, we're going to open the leg out to the side now, so my foot's working and active. If your leg stops here, that's fine. You want to keep this other hip down. Don't rock over here. You're not stretching anything. It's just the pelvis is moving. So we're back to here and stretching open. Again, staying here for a while. This is a really good stretch for your inner thigh. Okay, let it get tight. Guys generally have a tighter inner thigh than the ladies. Just how they're built. The muscles, after they've been stretching for a minute or longer, they can get cranky. So as we transition up, you can help that leg up with the strap. That's okay. We're not here to work. We're here to relax. And so notice that I straighten my hips up a little bit. We're going to bring the leg over and rotate a little bit. But what I want you to do is I want you to bring this elbow and this shoulder and roll with you. I want you to get your hips in place first, and then we'll worry about the shoulder. A lot of people keep this anchored and things go bad. So take your hand and your shoulder with you. So I'm rolling all the way over, and I'm stacking hip over hip. And see, notice how my shoulder has come with me. Okay? So this foot is active. I'm keeping my hand active with my strap. Once you're here, and that foot is active as well, you could stay here and stretch. If this foot here is really active, you're going to get a lot of IT band hip strength stretching, and that's good. The next part of this is to open the chest, so we try to rotate and get the shoulder back down and roll the hand open and look the opposite way. Staying here, trying to relax. So use your breath to help the back muscles relax. If you have a lot of pain here, just bring the arm back in. Okay, and then as we come out of this, bring your arm in and then roll back to flat. Get your hips and your shoulders squared together on your mat. Bring your feet up, and then we're going to switch sides. So the hamstring stretch on the left side. And you might have a different hamstring length on that side. My left hamstring is shorter than my right, so I have to pay attention to that. A little less resistant to stretching. So the foot is active. This leg can be straight if you want. The foot's active down there as well. And remember, he's not trembling. The lower back is off the mat. And we stay here and we relax and let the hamstring let go. So over a minute. And then moving on to the next, we rotate the leg. We're rotating it externally, outward. Bring the leg across the body a little bit, switching the hands, and then bringing the leg towards the face. Okay, keeping this foot and leg straight and active, and keep that hip down. I'm pressing here this way and pulling this way, really stretching IT band, my hip, outside hamstring. So my foot's really active, so the stretch is coming through the knee and down into the posterior side of my leg. And releasing that, bringing it back to center. Keeping the right hip down. You use your abs right here to keep your hip down. And then rolling the leg open out to the side. Notice how my hip's not coming up. I'm using my abs to keep the leg and the pelvis stationary. And then coming out of that, you use your strap in your hand to bring your leg up. And then continue rolling all the way to the other side, rolling all the way onto that hip. You don't need the strap. You don't use the strap. Remember, though, that we're getting the hips squared first, so the hip over the hip, the feet are active. And then as I roll my chest open, I'm asking my shoulder how it feels. Using my breath, the exhales, to help my back to relax. And then we stay here for a minute or more. The gaze can go straight up if you want. You don't have to turn your neck the other way. If your neck is cranky, that's okay. You can can look the other way, or you can keep it looking straight up. And then coming out of this, we're going to lose the strap for a second. As we roll back, we square the shoulders, square the hips together. Okay? We're going to do what I call number 4 stretch. I'm sure a lot of other people do. We're going to work on the piriformis now. Key point and rule, important. This foot is always flexed. Okay? The foot's coming back towards the knee. Okay? So you might find enough stretch here and maybe push the knee a little bit. If you feel any pain, any discomfort in the knee, please just stop. Okay. So the next part is bringing the other foot up towards your face. You can reach through that hole and pull your knee forward. Notice that my neck and my face are relaxed. My feet, both of my feet are working. And I feel a really good stretch through the hip, hamstring. If you have a tight piriformis, you'll feel this. A lot of people go to Pigeon Pose as a good stretch. I find that this one is safer for the athletes because it's not so weight-bearing and uncompromising, where this you can move around a little bit. And then releasing, put your feet square up your hips to your shoulders, and switch to the other side. Again, foot is flexed, keeping the knee joint together. You can stay here, push the knee out a little bit, or bring your leg up and reach through. Notice that the feet are very active. The active feet, dorsiflexed, helps keep the knee joint together. It will rotate a little bit. That's why we get our meniscus problems. And the reason why that happens is because the hip causes knee problems. The hip is so much stronger than the knee, just in how it's built, how it is. It's a ball and socket versus the knee as a hinge. But with lazy leg muscles, the knee can twist a little bit. So that's where we get into trouble. And release that, and you can shake the knees around a little bit. Okay, this stretch I really like, but if you, it can be a pose that you can't do if you have really tight knees or you have other issues. So here's the idea of it, is that I'm grabbing my feet and my knees are centered together. Guys will have a little bit more of an issue with this one, but still try it. Okay, see how my feet are flexed? And the idea is that my back's coming up off the ground a little bit, that's fine. The idea is that I'm pulling my feet towards the floor. Okay? And you're going to find a really good hip stretch. You might be more like this or like this, and that's okay. You'll work towards flexibility in the hip. So we stay here, try to stay here for a minute. Remember that the feet are flexed. I'm trying to pull those legs in. Keeping the back on the mat is good. And release. And shake around a little bit. And then switch to the other side. So the feet are flexed, and you're trying to pull the knees, the feet towards the floor, towards your head. And go ahead and release that and shake it out a little bit. So here's the point where most people would do happy baby. I don't really like Happy Baby too much, but I'll show you how to do it. Some people just don't like Happy Baby because there's a lot of crunching that goes along in here. Try not to avoid Happy Baby if you need to, but if it's very painful and you never get anywhere with it, that's okay. So Happy Baby, your feet are up and you're grabbing the outside. It's a really good inner thigh stretch. The idea is that the feet are parallel to the ceiling and that the knees are coming down towards your armpits. The back is on the mat. So this would be Happy Baby. Or you could just lay here, your knees, your feet out, your knees together, and rest for a moment. Closing the eyes, breathing deep. And we'll breathe deep for about 5 seconds. And then waking the body up. Help yourself come up. Tell yourself, good job.